252 million years ago, the Earth nearly died. The Permian extinction, the single worst catastrophe in the history of life, wiped out more than 90% of all species. Entire oceans turned toxic. Volcanoes vomited ash into skies that stayed dark for years. Acid rain burned through forests. The world became a graveyard wrapped in smoke. And when the fires finally stopped, what was left was barely recognizable. What came next was the Triassic period, a world rebuilding itself from nothing. The climate was harsh and unforgiving. Temperatures swung wildly between baking heat and freezing cold. Seasonal droughts turned lush river valleys into cracked wastelands within months. Oxygen levels were lower than they are today. Simply breathing was harder. And into this brutal, unstable world, the first dinosaurs began to emerge. Not as kings, not as giants, but as small, scrappy survivors fighting for scraps in a world still dominated by other creatures. Crocodile relatives prowled the rivers. Enormous herbivorous reptiles grazed in herds. The earliest dinosaurs were just one lineage among many, competing for food, space, and a future. They were lean, fast, opportunistic. Their legs were tucked beneath their bodies, a small but revolutionary advantage that gave them speed and endurance. Their jaws were lined with sharp, recurved teeth designed for gripping and tearing. They had grasping hands with claws. And most importantly, they were warm-blooded or nearly so, able to stay active when the cold-blooded giants slowed down. But they were not yet dominant. Not yet feared. The Triassic was an experiment. Evolution was throwing designs at the wall to see what stuck. And deep in the river valleys of what is now Argentina, one predator was about to redefine what it meant to hunt. 231 million years ago, in the floodplains and forested valleys of South America, something new was moving through the underbrush. It stood upright, balanced on two powerful legs. Its tail swept behind it like a counterweight, long and muscular. Its arms were short but strong, tipped with curved claws designed for gripping. Its skull was narrow, sleek, built for speed rather than crushing power. And its jaws were lined with serrated teeth that curved backward. Once they sank in, there was no escape. This was Herrerasaurus, one of the earliest true dinosaur predators. At roughly 10 feet long and weighing around 300 pounds, it wasn't massive by later standards. But in the Triassic world, it was a revolution. While other predators relied on ambush tactics or brute strength, Herrerasaurus was built for pursuit. It could sprint across open ground, dodge through dense vegetation, and turn sharply mid-chase. Its legs were long and positioned directly beneath its body, giving it stamina and agility that most other reptiles couldn't match. It hunted early herbivores, small, lumbering reptiles that grazed along riverbanks and forest edges. It targeted the young, the sick, the slow. A typical hunt would unfold in seconds. A stalking approach through the ferns, a sudden burst of acceleration, a collision, claws digging into flesh, jaws clamping down on the neck or flank. The prey would thrash and scream, but Herrerasaurus would hold on, using its entire body to drag the animal down, waiting for blood loss and shock to do the rest. This was a predator that thought like a modern big cat, a cougar, a leopard. It didn't overpower its prey. It outsmarted it. It calculated risk. It knew when to attack and when to retreat. Because the Triassic was not yet the age of dinosaurs. Herrerasaurus shared its world with massive crocodile-like reptiles, heavily armored herbivores, and other predatory lineages that were just as hungry and just as dangerous. It was a prototype, an early draft of what would eventually evolve into the great theropods. But for now, it was a survivor. A hunter in a world that hadn't decided who would win yet. And it proved something critical. Dinosaurs could hunt. Dinosaurs could kill. And dinosaurs weren't going anywhere. By the late Triassic, around 214 million years ago, the rules were beginning to change. In the forested valleys and open plains of what is now Europe, a new kind of dinosaur was spreading across the landscape. It moved on 2 legs or 4, depending on the terrain. Its neck stretched upward to reach branches no other herbivore could touch. Its body was massive, up to 33 feet long and weighing over 2 tons. And it was everywhere. This was Plateosaurus, one of the first truly successful large herbivorous dinosaurs. It didn't have armor. It didn't have horns or tail clubs or defensive spikes. What it had was size. And in a world where most herbivores were still small and vulnerable, size was everything. A full-grown Plateosaurus was nearly impossible to kill. Its bulk alone was a weapon. A predator attacking it risked being trampled, kicked, or simply crushed beneath its weight. But more importantly, Plateosaurus changed the environment itself. Like modern elephants, these giants shaped the landscape as they fed. They stripped trees of leaves, trampled undergrowth, spread seeds across vast distances through their droppings. Wherever they went, they left pathways and clearings. They altered entire ecosystems, and their success created a new evolutionary pressure. If herbivores were getting bigger, predators had to get bigger too. Plateosaurus likely lived in groups, herds that moved together for protection. The adults were nearly invincible, but the young were vulnerable. Juveniles and sick individuals were prime targets. A predator that could separate a young Plateosaurus from the herd had a feast, but making that happen required patience, coordination, and risk. Their digestive strategy was simple but effective. Unlike later herbivores that developed complex chewing mechanisms, Plateosaurus swallowed vegetation whole, relying on a massive gut full of fermenting plant matter to extract nutrients. They ate constantly. They moved slowly. And they grew to sizes that most Triassic predators simply couldn't handle. They were the evolutionary prototype for the giants that would come later, the sauropods, the towering long-necked titans of the Jurassic and Cretaceous. Plateosaurus proved that being big worked. And in doing so, it set off an arms race that would define the rest of the dinosaur age. The Triassic ended in fire. Massive volcanic eruptions tore through the supercontinent Pangaea, triggering another mass extinction. When the smoke cleared, the Jurassic period had begun, and with it, a golden age for dinosaurs. 193 million years ago, in the desert floodplains of what is now Arizona, a new kind of hunter was perfecting the art of the chase. Dilophosaurus. Forget the movie version, the venom-spitting, frill-necked gimmick. The real animal was far more impressive. At over 20 feet long and weighing around 900 pounds, it was one of the largest predators of its time. But it wasn't built like a tank. It was built like a sprinter. Its skull was long and lightweight, with delicate crests running along the top, probably for display or species recognition. Its teeth were sharp but slender, designed for slicing rather than crushing. Its legs were long and powerful, capable of sustained speed. And its arms, though short, were equipped with clawed hands strong enough to hold struggling prey. This was a pursuit predator, a marathon killer. Imagine a hunt. A group of small herbivorous dinosaurs grazes near a river. They're nervous, constantly scanning for danger. Dilophosaurus watches from the tree line, body low, muscles coiled. Then, the sprint. It explodes from cover, legs pumping, tail streaming behind for balance. The herbivores scatter, but Dilophosaurus has already chosen its target, a juvenile lagging behind. The predator closes the distance in seconds, slashing with its claws, raking across the prey's flank. The herbivore stumbles. Dilophosaurus bites down on the neck, dragging the animal to the ground. The struggle lasts less than a minute. This wasn't a one-bite killer. It was a predator that used speed, stamina, and repeated attacks to wear down its prey. It could chase an animal for miles if necessary. And in the lush environments of the early Jurassic, that strategy worked. Dilophosaurus was proof that dinosaurs didn't need to be the biggest to be deadly. They just needed to be smarter, faster, and more relentless than anything else out there. By the late Jurassic, 155 million years ago, the world had become a cathedral of giants. Sauropods the size of buildings grazed on treetops. Armored herbivores with spiked tails wandered in herds. And ruling over all of them was a predator so successful, so widespread, so efficient at killing that it would dominate for over 10 million years. Allosaurus. At 28 feet long and weighing up to 2 tons, it was the apex predator of its age, the Jurassic equivalent of T-Rex. But T-Rex was built like a bone-crushing sledgehammer. Allosaurus was a precision slicing machine. Its skull was massive but lightweight, reinforced with air pockets. Its jaws opened impossibly wide, revealing rows of blade-like teeth with serrated edges like steak knives. And its bite wasn't designed to crush, it was designed to cut. Deep, devastating slashes that opened arteries and caused catastrophic blood loss. A single bite could remove a chunk of flesh the size of a football, but its most terrifying weapon wasn't its mouth. It was its strategy. Allosaurus hunted prey that could kill it. Massive sauropods with tails like whips. Stegosaurus, with spiked tails capable of shattering bone. These weren't easy meals. They were walking fortresses, and Allosaurus had to be smart. Imagine a hunt. A lone Allosaurus stalks a herd of Stegosaurus near a riverbed. The adults are too dangerous. Their tail spikes can punch through ribs like spears. But there's a juvenile at the edge of the group. The predator charges and slams into the young Stegosaurus. Its teeth sink in, ripping through muscle. The herbivore screams and swings its tail wildly. Allosaurus strikes again. Another bite. Another gash. Blood pours onto the ground. The juvenile stumbles. The adults charge to defend, but Allosaurus is already retreating, watching, waiting. It doesn't need to kill immediately. It just needs to wound. This was a predator that understood patience, that knew how to inflict damage and retreat, that could take down prey 5 times its size through persistence and precision. Long before T-Rex ever existed, Allosaurus proved that apex predators don't need the strongest bite. They need the right tools, the right strategy, and the will to take risks. "100 million years ago, in the swamps and river systems of what is now North Africa, evolution built something that defied every rule. Spinosaurus. At over 50 feet long and weighing up to 8 tons, it was one of the largest predators ever to walk the earth. But it didn't hunt like other theropods, because Spinosaurus wasn't designed for land. It was designed for water. Its skull was long and narrow, like a crocodile's, lined with conical teeth perfect for gripping slippery fish. Its nostrils were positioned high on its snout, allowing it to breathe while partially submerged. Its bones were dense, unusual for theropods, giving it buoyancy control for swimming. Its forelimbs were massive and powerful, tipped with sickle-shaped claws capable of spearing prey. And rising from its back was a sail-like structure over 6 feet tall. Whether for thermoregulation, display, or species recognition, we may never know. But it made Spinosaurus unmistakable. This was a predator that spent much of its life in rivers. It waded through murky water, head low, scanning for movement. When it detected prey, a massive prehistoric fish, a juvenile crocodilian, even a smaller dinosaur drinking at the water's edge, it struck with terrifying speed. Jaws clamped down, claws hooked into flesh. The prey was dragged into deeper water, thrashing, drowning, dying. Spinosaurus didn't need to compete with other land predators. It had carved out its own ecological niche, a river monster in a world of plains hunters. Imagine a grizzly bear that fishes like a crocodile, except it's longer than a bus. And its claws are the size of kitchen knives. Spinosaurus was proof that dinosaurs didn't follow one evolutionary path. They adapted. They experimented. They became whatever the environment demanded. 99 million years ago, in the forests and plains of what is now Argentina, evolution produced a predator so large, so powerful, that it could challenge the biggest herbivores on Earth. Giganotosaurus. At 43 feet long and weighing over 8 tons, it was slightly larger than T-Rex, and it lived 30 million years earlier. Its skull alone was over 5 feet long, filled with teeth like serrated daggers. Its jaws didn't crush bone like a Tyrannosaurus. They sliced deep, clean cuts that caused massive hemorrhaging. And its prey wasn't small. It hunted titanosaurs, sauropods so massive they weighed over 60 tons. Dinosaurs the size of buildings. Herbivores so large that even a predator like Giganotosaurus had to think carefully before attacking. A hunt would have been a calculated risk. A lone titanosaur is nearly invincible. One step could crush a predator's skull. But a herd offers opportunities. The old, the sick, the young. Giganotosaurus watches, circles, waits for a mistake. Then, the charge. It targets the legs, the flanks, anywhere it can reach. A slashing bite opens a wound. The titanosaur bellows and swings its tail. Giganotosaurus dodges, strikes again. Blood flows. The herbivore weakens. Hours pass, maybe days, but eventually, blood loss wins. This was a predator built for mega herbivore hunting, a specialist in taking down giants. And while T-Rex would later evolve a bone-crushing bite to crack open armored prey, Giganotosaurus perfected the art of bleeding out the biggest animals that ever lived. Two different solutions. Two apex predators, both kings of their time. Long before Tyrannosaurus Rex ever roared its name into legend, the Earth had already crowned countless kings and buried every one of them. In every era, evolution forged new champions from hunger, pressure, and time. Some ruled by speed, some by size beyond imagination, some by sheer, relentless cunning. And all of them proved the same truth. Nature doesn't reward the strongest forever. It rewards the ones that can survive change. The ones that adapt when the world shifts beneath them. The dinosaurs we remember are only the final chapter. Before them came a parade of forgotten titans, each as dominant, as deadly, as perfectly designed for their moment as anything that followed. And one day, something will say the same about us.